Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
More critical than others. We can all recognize that the priests who administer the sacraments are truly crucial to the life of the church. But equally important are our sisters. Without the sisters in the schools teaching us the importance and significance of the sacraments, we have lost many souls. Satan knew what he was doing when he attacked our church in the heart, and we lost so many consecrated religious. Think about it. Back in the 50s, we had the best educational system and the best hospitals in the world. And that was due in part to many of the schools and hospitals being staffed by the little brides of Christ. Nothing will revive our church more than staffing all of our Catholic schools with sisters again, period. Our next speaker is reviving the heart of the church. Mother Assumpta Long is the Prioress General of the Dominican Sisters of Mary, Mother of the Eucharist. An order that she and three other sisters founded in 1997. Her teaching order is one of the fastest growing communities of religious women and was even featured on Oprah. If you meet any of the sisters, you will immediately notice their infectious joy and you can't help but smile. These are the young women who are going to rebuild the church one classroom at a time. We are so honored to have Mother Assumpta join us today and share with us her talk entitled, What Would Mary Say? And I, for one, am very interested to find out.
Well, good morning. No one in this room is going to believe this, but I found out that heaven is high-tech. And when the Blessed Mother heard that I was coming to speak to you, she sent me an email with a letter attached. This is no joke. And anyway, she wanted me to read you this letter from her, but she said, be sure and tell those women. It's not just to all of them, but it is to each woman in this room individually. The Blessed Mother is speaking to you privately. My dear daughters, I am so grateful to be able to speak with you at this women's conference. My son has such a love for you and wanted me to take this opportunity to tell you of that love and how much he needs you to stand up and proclaim to the whole world what it means to be women of Christ. I wish to speak to you as a mother talks to her child. I want to talk to you informally, one woman to another, and wish to share with you some of the things I have learned from my own mother, from the great women of old, and from standing at the cross with my son. There are some of you who may wonder what I can tell you. You are thinking there is a great difference between my life and yours. You might even say to me, but you were conceived without sin. You were the daughter of saints and the mother of God. What do you know about being a woman today? What do you know about sin and suffering, about emotions and dreams and feminine longings? I admit that I had the most wonderful home. My mother and father, whom you call Saint Joachim and Anne, and I call Abba and Emma, were saints and raised me in the love and fear of God. They steeped me in the teachings of the Torah and the prophets and pondered the meaning of Isaiah's mysterious suffering servant. We all expected the Messiah, but knew nothing of how, when, or where he would come. I had a great love for God and wanted to dedicate my whole life to him, so you can imagine my surprise and puzzlement when the angel came to me and asked me to be the mother of God. Trusting totally in God, after the explanation of Angel Gabriel, I said, Fiat. And from that moment on, my life was a sharing in the sufferings of my son. It began almost immediately in the deep affliction my pregnancy caused good St. Joseph, to whom I was betrothed, and whom I loved so deeply with a virginal love. You know the rest of the story, the birth in Bethlehem, the holy innocents murdered, the flight into Egypt, the losing of Jesus for 3 days. Ultimately, I too had to do the will of the Father, which eventually took me to my son's passion and death. Let me back up and let you ask your question. What does this have to do with my life? I want you to realize that I know the beauty and privilege of being a woman. I know the fullness of womanly goodness and love, the depths of the feminine heart, what the feminine heart has to offer and to suffer. I know from the inside out how beautiful we are, women, the masterpiece of God's creation. John Paul II termed it that also. I know what it means to be a woman completely in love with God. I know what it means when another chooses you to be his bride. I know what it means when a tiny being reaches up to you and cries, Mama. I know what it means to be betrayed, what it feels like when all that is precious to you seems to be lost. I know the feeling which gripped your stomach when you were empty inside, but you have to keep giving and living. I felt others' sufferings, watch my own spouse and child die. I know what it means to hurt, and I know what it means to forgive. I know what it means to love. There's one thing, however, I experience that most of you will not experience, but that is the fact that my son lived with me for 30 years. Aren't you glad? No. He took over the carpenter shop after Joseph died, and like his foster father, was so good and generous with people of the village, particularly the poor. Nevertheless, we were able to spend hours alone discussing our traditions, the patriarchs and the prophets. I even taught him to pray the psalms, but I had to learn from him that the Father's will was the one thing important in his life, and I had to embrace this fact totally. I had to know that he came to earth to save sinners and what that would cost him. It was most clear that I was called to share in that mission, even to the point of willing his suffering and death. One of the hardest things I ever did in my life happened at the joyous occasion of a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Jesus had come with the first 5 apostles he had chosen. I knew that if I asked him to work a miracle, I would hasten his passion and death. I knew that it would mean separation from me forever. I had to do it because it was the will of the Father. This act would forever unite me to the passion and death of my Son. When he worked his first public miracle, he no longer belonged to me, but belonged to everyone. From that moment on, I had to silently watch other women minister to him. I had to wonder where he was and what was happening to him. I had to become a mother to all those burly young men he chose especially to be his apostles. I had to watch him being rejected by so many, and finally watch him being condemned to death and dying on the cross. My Son's death on the cross was total. He gave everything. My presence was both a sorrow and a consolation to him. He did not want to cause me such anguish and witness in his great humiliations and sufferings. But at the same time, he knew I wanted to be there, not only to console him, but more importantly, to fulfill the Father's will. Among his last words on the cross was when he looked at John and me and said, "Son, behold your mother, and woman, behold your son." There Jesus said to me, "Woman." Woman, not mother, not Mary, but woman. He spoke to me, and in so doing, he spoke up to every woman. "Behold your son," he said. Jesus turned my gaze from himself and from my own suffering to look at another disciple. He showed me that in loving him, I had to love all men. I knew when he told me to behold my son, that he was speaking of all of you. He called me woman, as he had done at Cana. It meant that you would be my children, and I would be your mother. I would like to reflect on what I could teach you from the experience of my life. I remember so clearly the day the angel Gabriel came to me. I didn't know what God was doing, what was going on, or what our Lord had planned, and I was frightened. A hard experience of turmoil and anguish and confusion summarized and defined with 2 concise terms by St. Luke. I was greatly troubled. The truth is that Gabriel, announcing my vocation and making me the mother of God, first had to explicitly tell me not to fear. Why? Why I should be free from fear? What is there that takes away such emotions? There are many fears in your life. Fears of infidelity, fears of losing a job, fears for your children, fears of sickness and death, fears for the future. Yes, there are all kinds of fears. The angel said to me, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. You are loved." Yes, love takes away fear. I know what it's like to be infinitely loved, and it is this love that makes us true women. It is this love which I want to speak with you about. You could say that woman is not merely the masterpiece of God's creation, but above all, the masterpiece of His love. We're not created from dust, from the sight of man. We were made to answer the longing and loneliness of the human heart. Our very existence shows that the human person was made for self-giving. Adam was incomplete without Eve. The Torah describes this so humorously. God knew Adam needed the aid of a woman, but He allowed Adam to discover this need for himself. All the animals of paradise were given to Adam. He named and had dominion over every creature. Yet Adam wasn't happy. No beast satisfied his heart. Adam needed another person to whom to entrust himself. People need to exist for others. Alone, our life is incomplete. Poured out for another, our life is joyfully fulfilled. In the garden, Adam experienced his solitude, but it was not good for him to be alone. Loneliness is the antithesis of what it means to be human. The creation of Eve revealed this truth. What joy was it when he allowed his own flesh at last. Living in the world is giving to man and the key to understanding of the came in the life of Joseph when we're told there was search for a child to him. We were told in Egypt that so doing with Jesus' life, the babies of man 2 years old or young slaughtered. This is a thing we all carry. Here, a worse suffering. Women who lost their children and cried and lamented, but you at the time, thousands and thousands of women are freely to babies. You are trying to change hearts, create a culture of life, and help the men and women who are wounded by their past evil choices. I didn't understand when Jesus was last lost for 3 days. Joseph and I searched frantically for him and finally found him in the temple. There's so many things I had to keep within my heart without fully understanding the reasons. You may also lose your children. This may happen physically, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally. It may be for many reasons. You may never understand, but like the faithful father of the prodigal son, you keep watching, waiting, and praying for your child's return. I understand your anguish and your fright. As my son belonged to everyone after the wedding feast of Cana, you may have to give up your children even when it leaves you in loneliness and isolation. Not for the reasons I gave up my son, but you may have to see your children choose others and other things in preference to you and leave you in loneliness. You also have to let them go when they're ready to move on in life. This is especially true when God is calling your son to the priesthood or your son or daughter to religious life. Give them joyfully to the Lord. Women were made for self-giving. We understand relationships. Motherhood is part of our being. We were created with the capacity to welcome others, to reach out in love to everyone we encounter. In our capacity, we mirror the very depths of God, for God is love. Love poured out for another. I have seen God's love. I have heard it and touched it with my own hands. I watched him offer his life on the cross. The heart of a woman is made to be like this. Let us go back a little and see where you fit into the picture. If there is anything a woman woman desires, it is love. We want our husbands, our friends, and the whole world to proclaim how important we are. No woman ever hears of hearing the words, I love you. In our darkest moments when our hearts are wrought with fear and confusion, we seek someone who loves us and whose grace and belief in us can make all things well. In the Garden of Eden, the temptation given by the evil one was to embrace self-love. The serpent hoped to deny the gift of woman and to entice Eve to turn her gaze inward. He bid her to think of herself. Your eyes will be open and you will be like God, he said. Eve fell for the trap, and in turning inward, she lost both God and the beauty of herself. She sinned against her Creator and against the very being of woman. The effects of Eve's sin remains the turning inward is still the threat to women. Jealousy, pride, vanity, brooding, desire for praise, gossip, possessiveness, all the defections from the feminine nature. Women were made to see and live beyond themselves. We have only to look at history and at great women of old for proof of this fact. Ruth left her homeland for a people and religion she knew to be true. Your people shall be my people, she said, and your God my God. She placed truth before her own comfort, and so she became the grandmother of the magnificent King David. Esther, shy, gentle Esther, risked her life to tell the king about the persecutions threatening the Jews. She saved the nation with her self-forgetfulness. Remember, she said, if I perish, I perish. The Maccabean mother, do you remember her? She saw her sons brutally martyred for the faith, one after the other. Finally, it was the turn of the seventh child, the youngest boy, to face death. The judges were moved to compassion. They told the mother to encourage this child to offer pagan sacrifices and thus save his own life. Yet that mother, who had already watched 6 sons being tortured and killed, saw beyond herself and beyond this life. She encouraged her last son to remain strong in his faith, for after death would come the resurrection. The pains of the present moment were as nothing compared to the joy and satisfaction of eternity with God. The courage and vision of this woman won 7 saints for heaven and a crown of sanctity for herself. Truly, a woman's glory is her capacity to love beyond herself. Some of you may smile as I recount the past. Those are nice stories, you may think, and beautiful examples of a woman's greatness. But how can most women hope to be great in the world of today? Yes, there are extraordinary women. Well, one answer can be given to the hundreds of ordinary wives and mothers, sisters and daughters. We may have experienced the dominance of men, the injustice of sinners, and the frailty of women. Our longing to give has been abused. Our loving desires have become possessive, and our magnanimous spirit has veiled self-seeking. Yes, there are moments where women are accorded incredible dignity, but how often those moments seem to fade as we suffer the day-to-day indignities of life. These daily indignities highlight our need for a Savior. How often my mother told me the story of Sarah. She left everything she knew and loved, traveled thousands of miles with Abraham, and settled in a foreign land because this was what God asked of her. Yet when God promised she would bear a son in her old age, Sarah laughed. She thought her own understanding of the world was greater than the plans of God. Compared to her ways, Sarah found the ways of God laughable. Salvation begins, however, when we realize that the ways and powers of man. We need a Redeemer. We need God to break into our lives, into our preconceived notions, into our petty wills. We need the Spirit of God to expand our hearts and to help us see beyond ourselves. We need to be reminded that with God, all things are possible. As a young woman, I long for the Messiah. I long for a Redeemer who would set the world aright. He will come, my mother told me, and I hoped he would come soon. Who could dream of the radiance of God's love? He answered and exceeded the deepest longings of the human heart. A heart whose longing began in that garden called paradise before the fall. We might even say that the original happiness of Adam and Eve was lost through the desires of a woman. In redeeming man, it is the desire of the feminine heart that again comes to the fore. What do I mean? A woman's ultimate desire is to belong to another person, to give herself entirely in love, and to be loved entirely in return. We long to achieve complete union. This longing, however, will never be fulfilled by another human being. No man can fulfill such a desire. Isn't this the woman's cross? To have a heart that wants to love infinitely and simultaneously, and to have to restrain and guard her love. Only God can give himself to a person and receive that person in a manner such that the person loses nothing in the process. Only God can accept and return the totality of a woman's longing. A woman who wishes to love without limit and without fear must bear divine love inside herself. She must surpass herself and be united to God. Who would have thought that a creature could be one with her Creator? Yet this is what happened when the Savior came. Divine love came to me, inside me. My life and the life of God were forever joined. The Word was made flesh in me. In the past, God always made his covenants with men. Noah, Abraham, Moses. This is important, I think, from Our Lady's letter. In the past, God always made his covenant with men. Noah, Abraham, Moses, David. The new covenant, the covenant of his presence among us and in us, he made with a woman. The intimate union man has always desired took place in my womb. In my being, God resolved man's search for meaning and for total gift. God not only restored the human person in his proper dignity, but he surpassed our every expectation. He made it possible for two to become one. He made it possible for an ordinary person to share in and to share with others the very life of God. Truly, the Almighty has done great things. I was the first person to experience the joy of union with God, but all are called to this joy. My life reflects the mystery of woman, and my yes was the beginning of every woman's yes. In Christ, it is possible for every woman to love and to be loved exclusively, entirely. My son Jesus recognized the greatness of the feminine heart. He held up a woman's desire for total self-giving as a sign of what it means to be human. In his preaching, Jesus often took the feminine response as his starting point. I'm thinking especially of the widow who gave all she had to the temple treasury. We're going to have those beautiful readings in tomorrow's reading. I hate to tell you, but God asked everything. I'm thinking especially of the widow who gave all she had to the temple treasury. Or again, of that time when the learned men were scandalized that Jesus permitted a sinful woman to touch him, weeping and drying his feet with her hair. In response to their distress, Jesus praised the woman, saying, "Her sins, which are many, are forgiven." for she has loved much. In like manner, Jesus commended the actions of the woman who anointed his head with oil. To those who were indignant at the waste of such costly ointment, Jesus chided, "Why do you trouble this woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me." And he declared, "Wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her." Jesus was quick to see the steadfast love and depth of the feminine heart. He spoke to women about the things of God, and they grasped his words. Moreover, they changed their lives to follow him. My son recognized this. Earlier I said that love casts out fear. There's one more fearless, more powerful. There's no one more fearless, more powerful than a woman in love. At the crucifixion of my son, the men fled in fright. Beside me, however, there stood Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene, and many other women who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Even Pilate's wife, who had her husband's authority to counter, was not afraid to speak up for my son. The morning of the resurrection, when all seemed hopeless, the women were the first to come to the tomb. Thus, they were the first to hear the joyful words, "He is not here, he is risen from the dead." Mary Magdalene rushed to bring this hope to the 12. A woman was the apostle to the apostles, and it was her words that gave them strength. Only the beauty of God himself can compare to the beauty of a woman in love with God. Such a woman is a light to the world, a Christ bearer to all. Among the indignities of daily life, she stands with Esther and Ruth and the Maccabean mother. She sees beyond herself and compels all who meet her to share in her vision. In her smallest action, she bears divine love to the world, and as a result, there's nothing ordinary or small about a woman who loves. Mother is the name for a woman who loves, and in motherhood we see our worth. Motherhood is a vocation of readiness, a readiness to be poured out for all we encounter. It is a vocation in which one both brings life and nourishes life in another. That is why, in a special way, God entrusts the human being to woman. Women know by their very natures how to accept the gift of God's love and how to respond to it. We see the other person's hidden gifts and goodness. We have the words of encouragement and challenge that will lead others to a new and immortal life in God. Women are the spiritual strength of humanity. We have the particular dignity, the honor, the joy of bearing God. How beautiful it is to be a woman, to receive such love from her divine heart. How do you keep divine love within yourself? How do you live up to your beauty? You must live a Eucharistic life, turning to the sacrament for divine aid and presence. When you receive the Eucharist, God truly comes to you. He longs to make new, to make you like himself. If you but knew the gift of God, I beg you, accept God's love. Allow God to enter your being. Respond to his presence. If you do not run from God's love, if you receive his mercy in confession, if you receive his presence in the Eucharist, you will be changed. You will be beauty with the very beauty of God. You will be a mother bringing Christ to the world. Who will show you the way? Who will help you when you stray from your feminine ideal? Please come to me. I understand that what you are going through, and I want to help you. I will say to you what I said to Juan Diego. Let nothing discourage you. Nothing depress you. Let nothing alter your heart or your countenance. Also do not fear any illness or vexation, anxiety or pain. Am I not here who am your mother? Are you not under the shadow, my shadow and protection? Am I not the fountain of your life? Are you not in the crossing of my arms? Is there anything else that you need? That is Our Lady's message to you, and I'm going to one of my very favorite saints, because she was such a powerful woman, is St. Teresa of Avila. And she has this beautiful prayer, which I would like to share with you. I'm sure that you've heard it or know it, but it just shows how much our Lord needs you. She said, Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes, you are his body. Christ has no body now but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Christ has no body now on earth but yours. I have a page here, I'll probably skip it anyway. Doesn't make any difference. You wouldn't know if I skipped it or not, but anyway. I hate it. I mean, not that I want to miss one of the pages of the Blessed Mothers, but nevertheless it's here. But I did want to share with you something that I thought, you won't believe it, this is true, a true story also. I had the privilege of studying in Rome at the Angelicum, and since I was in Scripture, I had to take Hebrew and Greek. They were both taught in Italian. I did not know Italian. Neither did I know Hebrew or Greek. But I want to tell you something that happened. I was in this Hebrew class with they were all Italians in the class, and it was taught by this big Dutch Dominican, Father Dunker. And, but anyway, it was funny. I'll tell you, Pope St. John Paul II went to the Angelicum, and basically when he went out to the Angelicum to give a talk as Pope, he was in an aula kind of like this, and it shows how many years he'd been there. And he looked at me and said, Dunker, where are you? It was like, he was scared. One time I heard he failed his whole class. I don't know if that's true, but anyway, he was very good to me. So I had an English book and I'd ask something in English, and he would talk, and he would forget he was speaking in English. The Italians would have a fit, But anyway, that's not the point of my story. Anyway, one night, I thought this was so beautiful. One night, I was doing a translation in Hebrew of the passage, Isaac loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. That was, I came to that. But I noticed, in English, we only have one word for love. We say, I love you, we just have one word. If we want to make it superb, we have to add to it, like, I love you so much, I love you passionately, whatever. Adjectives or adverbs. We have to do that. But it was funny. In the Hebrew, I noticed there was a different tense of the verb. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to translate it. So I translated it like our English translation. I didn't know what to do. So I just did, Isaac loved Esau and Rebekah loved Jacob. But it was so, I'll never forgot this. The next in class, Father Dunker said, isn't this beautiful? The Hebrews had a different love. A woman has a different love than a man has. And they do it by using, because the aorist tense, they use a different tense of the verb. And he said, what that means is that a man can love in the past. A woman's love is in the past, it's in the present, and it's in the future. A woman will always love. I just found that so interesting that the Hebrews had a different way of describing a man's love and a woman's love. And anyway, I just thought there's so many things that, I hate to read you something else, but I thought about this and I brought this you've probably heard this, any time that there is love, there's going to be suffering. There's just going to be suffering. And you think, why is this a little bit loud? Maybe I'm too loud, but anyway. But anyway, it's going to involve suffering. And I thought that, a woman's love, you think the suffering of giving birth, you're suffering, why did God do it this way? And a woman just doesn't want, a true mother wants to pass on to her children the gifts that are going to make them so wonderful and beautiful. And it's so strange, somehow, in the mystery of God, I brought this parable. You've probably heard it, but somehow I stuck it in here. And why on earth would I turn to a Chinese legend to me, it really shows the love of a woman so beautifully, of how she desires with everything to pass on all the beauty to her children. Anyway, maybe you've heard this parable, it's true, but anyway, a priest read this to us, and I thought, that is just beautiful. It's a Chinese legend. Once upon a time, in the heart of the Western Kingdom, lay a beautiful garden. And there in the cool of the day was the master of the garden wont to walk. Of all the denizens of the garden, the most beautiful and the most beloved was a gracious and noble bamboo. Year after year, bamboo grew yet more noble and gracious, conscious of his master's love and watchful delight, but modest and gentle withal. And often when wind came to revel in the garden, bamboo would cast aside his grave stateliness to dance and play right merrily, tossing and swaying and leaping and bound in joyous abandon, leading the great dance of the garden, which most delighted the master's heart. Now upon a day, the master himself drew near to contemplate his bamboo with eyes of curious expectancy. And bamboo, in a passion of adoration, bowed his great head to the ground in loving greeting. The master spoke, "Bamboo, bamboo, I could use you." Bamboo flung his head to the sky in utter delight. The day of days has come, the day of which he had been made, the day for which he had been drawn hour after hour, the day in which he would find his completion in his destiny. His voice came low, "Master, I am ready. Use me as thou wilt." "Bamboo," the master's voice was grave, "I would fain take thee and cut thee down." A trembling of great horror shook the bamboo. "Cut me down? Me whom thou, master, hast made the most beautiful in all the garden, to cut me down? Oh, not that, not that. Use me for thy joy, O master, but cut me not down." "Beloved bamboo," the master's voice grew still graver, "if I cut thee not down, I cannot use thee." The garden grew still. Wind held his breath. Bamboo slowly bent his proud and glorious head. Then came a whisper, "Master, if thou canst not use me, but thou cut me down, then do thy will and cut." "Bamboo, beloved bamboo, I would cut thy leaves and branches from thee also." "Master, master, spare me. Cut me down and lay my beauty in the dust, but wouldst thou take from me my leaves and my branches also? Bamboo, alas, if I cut them not away, I cannot use thee. The sun hid his face. A listening butterfly glided fearfully away, and bamboo shivered a terrible expectancy, whispering low, Master, cut away. Bamboo, bamboo, I will yet cleave thee in twain and cut out thine heart. For if I cut not so, I cannot use thee. Then bamboo bowed to the ground. Master, master, then cut and cleave. So did the master of the garden take bamboo and cut him down and hack off his branches and strip off his leaves and cleave him in twain and cut out his heart. And lifting him gently, carried him to where was a spring of fresh, sparkling water in the midst of his dry fields. Then putting one end of broken bamboo in the spring, and the other end into the water channel in his field, the master laid down gently his beloved bamboo. And the spring sang welcome, and the clear sparkling waters raced joyously down the channel of bamboo's torn body into the waiting fields. The rice was planted, and the days went by, and the shoots grew, and the harvest came. And that day was bamboo, once so glorious in his stately beauty, yet more glorious in his brokenness and humility. For in his beauty he was life abundant, but in his brokenness he became a channel of abundant life to his master's world. You know, to me that speaks so beautifully of women. You know, in our age where there's so much narcissism, it's all about me. And yet sometimes I see women, I see mothers. I saw my own mother sacrificing everything for the children, going without. It's the most beautiful thing. And I think this legend tells us so much, you know, like our Lord said, it's so beautiful because I think real women would do anything for their children, give up their life. You know, it's interesting, there was a wonderful dermatologist in Ann Arbor, wonderful woman. And one day I saw her, and she's a wonderful doctor. She had a son who was also a medical doctor. I don't remember what kind it was, but anyway, came in. And she said that she just found out that her son had brain cancer. He was a doctor, popular, just gave so much time for his patients, very young. I promise you, she was in tears. She said, if God would just take me instead. I believe that she would have in a second given her life for her son. I know that. It's just a woman's love. And, you know, as I said, you know, the readings that we're going to have tomorrow, and I mentioned one of them in here, you know, where God asks everything. If you remember, and you'll hear this tomorrow, when Elijah went to Zarephath, and the women, you know, he said, you know, the boldness of, he said, you know, give me some water and give me some bread. And she said, I only have a little flour and a little oil, and I'm going to make a little cake. It's just my son and I will eat this, and then we will die, because there was a drought in the land. There was no food, there was no water. Elijah had the nerve, well, bring that cake anyway, you know. I mean, you know, so anyway, but she did it, and because she did it, her flour never ran out, her oil never ran out until the drought was over. God asked everything, just like the woman putting her little 2 coins that you'll hear tomorrow. She gave everything. God asked everything. And like John Paul II said, you only find yourself in losing yourself. We become more of ourselves the more that we give ourselves. And I will finish with, I have the privilege privilege of working with Cardinal O'Connor with the Sister Line. It was a great year for me. I had a year to work when they were first almost initially founded, a year after that, and it was a great privilege. But he told this story, and I will end with this. He was in St. Peter's, and I don't remember exactly the purpose, but anyway, he said he was leaving St. Peter's in Rome. He was going out, and there was Mother Teresa over on the side, and he just went over to speak to her, and she looked at him, and she said, "Give God permission." He never forgot that. I mean, it takes a lot of nerve. See if you can leave this conference, just say, see if you can do that, which means whatever he wants to do with your life. But trust him and give God permission. God bless you. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.